Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ironworker Gaming channel. Bungie has just released their This Week at Bungie update for the week of 10/22, and I think this is the one we've been waiting for. I mean, at least this is the one I've been waiting for. You know, hype trailers and teaser trailers, they're all well and good. Today, Bungie gave us a peek at some weapon tuning that we're gonna see coming with Beyond Light. A lot of these changes are either gonna make people really happy, or leave people reaching for their torches and pitchforks. And I'm not gonna read the entire TWAB for you word for word, but we are gonna hit on all the major points. But let's dive right in and take a look at some of these weapon changes. Starting out with hand cannons. Bungie says we're making changes to give hand cannon subfamilies more diversity, and more reasons to use each. Our aggressive frames, increased rate of fire from 110 to 120. Broke out aggressive frame hand cannons, allowing for custom tuning of stats. Damage fall off for 100 range in this subfamily now starts at 32 meters. And I really think this is a nice change to the archetype. The 110 hand cannons were not very user friendly. Bumping up that rate of fire and allowing this archetype to do max damage from further out is really going to help their cause. For our adaptive and precision frame hand cannons, range stat now has more impact on minimum damage fall off range for both archetypes. Damage fall off for 100 range now starts at 25 meters, was 20 meters. And specifically for the precision frames, the magazine has been scaled up by 37%. This also affects exotics with that rate of fire. That means malfeasance? Which, that's pretty cool, because malfeasance actually has a pretty nice magazine size to begin with. But the magazine size for the precision frame hand cannons definitely was an issue. For as light as they hit, they needed more bullets. Next up, the adaptive and lightweight frame hand cannons. In this one, I did not see coming. Moved all lightweight hand cannons, that meaning your 150 RPMs, to the adaptive subfamily of 140 RPMs. This includes Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten, but one exotic hand cannon will remain at 150 rounds per minute. That being Sunshot. And I think almost anybody playing the game wanted to see the 140s brought up to 150, but Bungie flipped the script on us and did it the other way around. They did explain themselves though. At this time, lightweight hand cannons represent the majority of hand cannon usage in the Crucible. While we experimented with many different ways to even out lightweights and adaptives, lightweight hand cannons consistently retained a faster time to kill. As such, we opted to equalize their rate of fire. We selected 140 rate of fire, as it fairly balanced in the Crucible Sandbox. It gives other weapon archetypes more time to breathe between shots, avoids an overabundance of hand cannons with faster time to kills than other weapons, and pairs nicely with upcoming changes to the 600 rate of fire auto rifles. I'm sure a lot of you are not real happy about this change. I mean, as we know, just 10 rounds per minute on these hand cannons can make the weapon feel completely different. And I'm assuming that the 150s are not going to retain their intrinsic benefit of being able to move a little bit faster when the weapon's equipped. And I guess this was a good way of bringing the 140 RPM hand cannons back into the conversation, because now that's all there is. Next up, we have sniper rifles. Bungie states we want sniper rifles to feel powerful without being so easy to use that they dominate. So they adjusted how aim assist is affected by the sniper rifle zoom level. Lower zoom scopes are going to have less aim assist, and higher zoom scopes will have more. Scopes with around 50 zoom are unchanged. The lowest zoom scopes are going to have a large reduction in the aim assist cone angle, and highest zoom scopes will have a small increase. And I really do think this is a good change, because the scope on the sniper rifle you were using and the amount of zoom it had was one of the biggest factors in determining which sniper rifle you were picking up. I mean, this change is going to hurt some of the fan favorite sniper rifles currently, but it opens a door for people to consider using different sniper rifles. And honestly, any change that promotes weapon diversity is a change that I'm in favor of. Next up, we have auto rifles. In Season of the Worthy, the adaptive archetype was given a buff. We're pulling back on that a little to keep it in check with other auto rifle archetypes. So the damage per bullet is being reduced from 15.75 to 14.25. Prior to Season of the Worthy, the damage per bullet was 13.75. This was a much needed change in my opinion. The adaptive frame auto rifles were becoming quite oppressive. And I do appreciate the fact that they just didn't completely reset them to what they were before the buff. I think they found a good middle ground here. And when they're talking about the damage per bullet, that obviously is body shot damage. Currently, adaptive auto rifles are killing in 13 rounds to the body. With these changes in place, they're going to kill with 14 rounds to the body. So it's really not a major change, but it's one of those that we're going to have to feel out once these changes are implemented. Next up, scout rifles. Scouts have a reasonable time to kill and can't be adjusted too much without making them dominant on the battlefield. So we're making them a little easier to use. So for the change, they increased how much each point of the aim assist stat widens the aim assist cone. At maximum, the aim assist cone is now 15% wider. Me personally, I am very happy to see that they opted not to up the damage of scout rifles. I mean, could you imagine high impact scouts killing with 2 headshots or 3 body shots? It would be all you would see in the Crucible anymore. That being said, I believe a 15% wider aim assist cone for scout rifles is going to be a change that you're definitely going to feel. And depending how much more forgiving it makes these scout rifles feel, you might see a nice uptick in scout rifle usage from this change alone. Moving down the list, we have rocket launchers. These heavy weapons currently have very low reserves, so we're adjusting that. We expect to take another look at rocket launchers in the future season, so Bungie's increased the reserves by 1 or 2 rockets, depending on the inventory stat. In my opinion, this change is okay. Rocket launchers aren't used all that often in the Crucible, I suppose, aside from Wardcliff Coil. I absolutely do not want to see Wardcliff Coil snagging 3 rounds on a heavy ammo pickup. That weapon is strong enough in the Crucible, it doesn't need any more ammo. Moving along though, next adjustment is to the Outlaw perk. The reload speed increase felt insufficient with certain subfamilies and combinations of roles. They increased the reload stat bonus from 50 to 70 with Outlaw. Next they addressed Merciless. They increased the inventory stat from 36 to 55. This increases the reserve ammo. And this isn't really something that's going to affect a whole lot inside of the Crucible, but for PvE, a few more rounds for Merciless is much appreciated. And next up, everyone's favorite crutch, Mountaintop. Instead of chaining it to a Mafia block and dropping it in the ocean, which was my suggestion to tune this weapon, they reduced the splash damage by 33% while increasing the impact damage, such that the total damage is 5% lower than before. They reduced the projectile velocity multiplier from the micro missile perk from 1.4 to 1.2, and they reduced the in-air accuracy. Now has significant projectile error when in the air, around 7 degrees without Icarus grip and substantially less whiff. So pretty much Mountaintop's going to be shooting a slower moving, less accurate projectile with less splash damage. We'll have to wait and see how this one plays out too. I still think Mountaintop will be fairly strong. In my opinion, no nerf they could have made to this weapon would have been too heavy-handed, but I really do hope this knocks Mountaintop down a peg and cuts into the usage rate substantially. Falling Guillotine's the next weapon to receive a nerf. Reduce heavy attack damage by 24% to bring it in line with other swords. Falling Guillotine will continue to be slightly above average, just not to the extent that it is now. All I can say here is it was fun while it lasted, you know? I think swords still will be pretty strong in PvE as long as Well of Radiance is around, but it's just not going to be the default go-to option anymore. The next 2 points here I'm slightly confused about. They're dealing with Mida Multi-Tool and Mida Mini-Tool, and Sturm and Drang. For the Mida Mini-Tool, they moved the Mida Synergy to the intrinsic trait, similar to how the Broke version works. They also added Hipfire Grip and Kill Clip. They did essentially the same thing with Drang and added accurized rounds and moving target to the weapon. But this really doesn't answer the major question. Are Drang and Mida Mini-Tool going to be upgraded to next year's power levels? Or are they going to be re-released sometime this upcoming year? Since Bungie's taking the time to update these weapons, I'd have to believe they're going to be moving forward, but this is going to be another wait and see. Next, Ruinous Effigy made the nerf docket. With the Transmutation Spheres, reduced the damage from the aerial melee attack by 25%, and significantly reduced the damage of the drain effect on enemy combatants. I mean, sure, the spheres were pretty strong. I mean, I don't think they were hurting anything though. It wasn't like they were trivializing content, except for maybe the Gambit boss phase. But hey, I mean, it's Gambit. That's the least of Gambit's problems right now. Next, we have Arbalist, which will no longer strike shields multiple times, but its efficiency against shielded targets has been increased. Honestly, this was something I didn't even know was a thing. I guess I'll be interested to see how this affects the performance of the weapon. For Jade Rabbit, armor-piercing rounds are being swapped to high-caliber rounds. This fixes an issue that could prevent the exotic perk from triggering. Honestly, I never put 2 and 2 together here, but armor-piercing rounds would definitely prevent the perk from working. When that bullet punches through an enemy with armor-piercing rounds, the bullet registers as a miss. And that's good, we swap out armor-piercing rounds for high-caliber rounds, problem solved. And I am really happy to see this fixed because I love using Jade Rabbit. So with the incoming changes to Scout Rifle's aim assist and the exotic perk finally being fixed, Jade Rabbit could be strong coming up. And the last major point in the TWAB is that beginning in Beyond Light, all existing Trials weapons will have Adept versions. Also, they want all new Trials weapons to have Adept versions in the future, with their infusion caps matching the season that they were introduced in. For the first round of Adepts, their infusion caps will be set in Season of the Worthy. Additionally, they'll be introducing Adept weapon mods into the Sandbox in Beyond Light, which can only be applied to Adept weaponry. Okay, and Adept weapons are going to differ from the base weapon. Masterworking an Adept weapon grants additional stats, plus 10 for the primary stat as usual, and plus 3 for all alternate stats. Adept weapons can either use a standard weapon mod or a new Adept weapon mod earned when going flawless. A unique Adept shader has been made for these weapons. And note, these shaders are not awarded as a consumable when dismantling an Adept weapon. As such, they cannot be applied to other pieces of gear. And I have to assume these changes are making dedicated Trials players smile ear to ear right now. For the Adept weapon mods, they come in 2 varieties. A weapon stat boost which grants plus 10 in a particular stat in a similar way to the Masterwork stats. And there's going to be some versions of existing mods that grant improved bonuses, but with a downside. The example they show is Backup Mag giving a plus 30 to the magazine, but the Adept Mag would give a plus 40 to the magazine and minus 20 to handling. I like this concept. It really gives players the ability to min-max their gear and possibly get creative with some loadouts. To earn these Adept weapons and Adept mods, players must complete a Flawless Trials passage and open the Flawless chest at the Lighthouse. Each week a different Adept mod can drop from the Flawless chest. Adept weapon mods will be on a weekly rotation, so a given mod may not make its appearance until later in the season. The mod is unlocked for use on owned Adept weapons when it is acquired. Adept weapons, on the other hand, will be available from the Flawless chest on a bi-weekly basis, alternating with armor drops. The first Adept weapon acquired on a given week is a Pinnacle drop. Adept weapons will be set on rotation, so players may continue to earn alternate rolls on specific Adept weapons when completing Flawless passages throughout a given weekend. And I mean, all in all, these are fantastic changes for Trials, and something that the player base has been asking for since Trials was reintroduced. With Adept weapons and Adept mods, making it to the Lighthouse should really feel like a special experience again. And one last piece of housekeeping, titles. With the start of Year 4 on November 10th, certain seals and their associated titles will no longer be available to earn. Players will need to be sure to unlock and equip the following titles before this date to guarantee that the completions are recorded on their account. So for Shadow, Reckoner, Blacksmith, Wayfarer, Chronicler, and Forerunner, make sure you unlock and equip them if you want to keep them. And that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of the TWAB. I didn't read the thing in full, as I said earlier. If you want to read the whole thing for yourself, head over to bungie.net. But yeah, a lot of much needed changes coming up. Some good, some interesting. We'll have to see how the Sandbox shakes out come November, but I'm excited to see how it plays out. But hey, leave this video a like if you did appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 content made by yours truly. And you guys are awesome, and I'll catch you on the next one.